Open-source satellite trackers detected something running at high speed through the South China Sea. Not a carrier, not a destroyer, an amphibious assault ship, USS Tripoli LHA-7. The ship most defense analysts had written off as a failed experiment. On her flight deck, up to 20 F-35B Lightning to stealth fighters. In her hull, 2,500 Marines. Destination, Hormuz. Here is why that is strange. We broke 90% of Iran's military equation. 60 warships sit on the bottom of the Gulf. The missile factories that fed Hormuz its teeth are rubble. Drone production lines silent. To carrier strike groups hold the perimeter from opposite oceans. Lincoln commands the Arabian Sea. Ford locks down the Red Sea. A third carrier, the Bush, is still crossing the Atlantic days away. From the outside, the siege looks complete, but Hormuz is still closed. So look at what complete actually means when you run the numbers. More than 150 tankers sit anchored outside the strait, hemorrhaging fuel costs while they wait. Brent crude holds above $100 a barrel because the market price is certainty. And right now, certainty does not exist. The remaining 10% of Iran's capability, mines seated across the seabed, mobile launchers buried inside mountain tunnels, fast attack craft staged in coastal coasts, is enough to deny a 6 nautical mile shipping corridor? And here is the brutal arithmetic that keeps every escort commander awake. And here is the brutal arithmetic that keeps every escort commander awake. You do not need to sink a convoy to close a strait. You need to sink one tanker, one burning hole in that corridor, and no insurer on earth will write the next policy. The strait does not close by force. It closes by fear, and fear only needs one example. That is the paradox at the center of this war. The most powerful navy in human history solved 90% of the problem, but escort requires 100, and the distance between 90 and 100 is a supertanker on fire. Why is the Pentagon sending a ship most analysts dismissed to solve the problem to supercarriers could not? What can 2,500 Marines do that 50,000 sailors cannot? If you are proud of the men and women operating these machines, subscribe to Navy Decoded. We do not sell headlines, we solve equations. To answer that, we need to understand the weapon they are sending. A ship America built, hated, and nearly scrapped. Because the story of why it was called a mistake is the same story that explains why it might now be the answer. When the Navy designed the America-class Flight Zero, they made a decision that drew fire from Congress, Marine Corps generals, and defense analysts alike. They removed the well deck from the blueprint entirely. Every assault ship since World War II has carried one. It is how you launch LCAC hovercraft, how you deploy landing craft. It is the identity of an amphibious warship. Designing an amphib without a well deck is like engineering a cargo truck and forgetting the bed. The defense press agreed the ship was a mistake, but the Navy understood something the critics did not. The space the well deck used to occupy unlocked a doubled hangar bay, expanded aviation maintenance facilities, a fully equipped surgical hospital, and jet fuel storage that previous amphib designs could never accommodate. Tripoli did not lose the ability to put Marines ashore. Tripoli changed how it puts Marines ashore from the sea surface to the air, and in return, it gained something no other amphibious ship on Earth possesses: the ability to operate 20 F-35B Lightning to stealth fighters simultaneously. Proven off the coast of California in April 2022. 16 jets from Marine Aircraft Group 13 and 4 from VMX-1 operating from her deck in a single surge evolution. 20 F-35Bs, nearly half the air wing of a $13 billion supercarrier on a ship that cost $3.5 billion. The ship they called a mistake turned out to be the most dangerous pocket carrier afloat. Now, here is why that mistake is exactly right for Hormuz. We explained in a previous video why carriers refused to enter the Persian Gulf. That 540 nautical mile bathtub Iran spent 40 years turning into a killbox. 100,000 tons of irreplaceable steel is too valuable to risk inside it. Tripoli displaces 44,000 tons. She is not irreplaceable the way Ford or Lincoln are. In the Pentagon's risk calculus, losing Tripoli is painful, Losing a carrier is catastrophic.
There is a cost. Pulling Tripoli from Japan strips the Indo-Pacific of its only amphibious rapid reaction force. That is not a light decision. The Pentagon is withdrawing assets from one theater to solve another. And that tells you exactly how important Hormuz is to America right now. The ship they called a mistake is now running at high speed through the South China Sea toward the narrowest strait on Earth. And it carries something nobody has brought to Hormuz before. Not more missiles, but an entirely new dimension, the ground. Iran built beach defenses to stop landing craft from the sea. Tripoli has no landing craft. Its Marines come from the sky. Nobody knows exactly how CENTCOM will employ Tripoli. The orders are classified and any channel that claims otherwise is guessing. But the capability is not classified, and Tripoli introduces 3 capabilities that did not exist at Hormuz before she sailed. Each one solves a piece of the 10% problem the carriers left behind. The problem: Lincoln and Ford operate in the open ocean outside the Persian Gulf, too valuable to risk inside the bathtub. 2 weeks before Hormuz called, escorting the Tripoli, the EEJS cruiser Robert Small's CG-62, the Arleigh Burke destroyer Rafael Peralta, DDG-115, and 2 San Antonio-class LPDS, New Orleans and San Diego, carrying the Marines and their equipment.
That means no persistent air cover inside the strait. A combat air patrol launched from Lincoln at 500 nautical miles has to fly for over an hour just to reach the shipping lanes. Time on station is measured in minutes before the jets need to turn back for fuel. That gap, the gap between takeoff and presence, is where Iranian drones find tankers. Tripoli solves this with physics. At 44,000 tons and $3.5 billion, she is expendable enough in the risk calculus to operate close to Hormuz. Her F-35Bs are STOL, short takeoff, vertical landing, no catapults needed. They launch from an 844 feet deck, operating at 100 nautical miles instead of 500. Changes one variable that changes everything: time on station. Run the math. An F-35B launching from Lincoln at 500 nautical miles cruises at roughly 450 knots. That is over an hour of transit each way. 2 hours of fuel burned just getting to the fight and back on a standard load. That leaves maybe 40 minutes of actual patrol time over the shipping lanes. 3 sorties per day per jet, and you still have gaps measured in hours. Now run the same math from Tripoli at 100 miles. 13 minutes each way. Time on station triples. Gap between patrols shrinks to minutes instead of hours.